So here's something that most of us don't really think about. Some decisions that affect what we're allowed to do are not actually written down in the laws or in certain rule books. They're built into how a system works. And once you notice that, a lot of everyday technology makes a lot more sense. So this idea comes from a political theorist called Langdon Winner in his work titled, Do Artifacts Have Politics? Despite the title, he wasn't saying that machines have opinions or designers are trying to control people. What he meant was a little bit more specific. What it was framed around was that decisions about access, behaviour, and responsibility can be built directly into physical and technological systems. So once a decision is built into a system, you don't really experience it as a debate. You experience it when something works for you and then when it doesn't. And that's the key shift that he was actually pointing out. So Winner brings out some quite concrete examples. I never knew they existed before. But he talks about these bridges here in New York. And he says that these bridges were strategically built just a little bit too low for buses to pass underneath them. And the effect or the intended design of those was that people that needed buses, so people that were less rich, that don't have cars, that don't have this, which was stereotypically speaking at that time in New York, more of the poorer, darker colored skinned people, they relied on buses. So they couldn't make their way under the bridge to reach certain places, which were these nice places in New York. Well, I think there were beaches and stuff. And the jury's still out on this. There's a follow-up essay where someone says that that's not the case. But his argument still stands. And whether it was the intention or not the intention of creating this bridge just a little bit too short, the bridge itself enforced this. It meant people that didn't have a car couldn't get underneath this bridge. So another example he uses is speed bumps. A speed bump doesn't explain itself. It doesn't give warnings or say, hey, you need to slow down. It just physically forces you to slow down. And that's a decision about behavior implemented through design and not instruction. It's just built straight into the object itself. And we don't even question it. So once you understand those examples, it's easier to see the same pattern in modern systems today. Take parking apps. In many cities, this was new to me, South Africa doesn't have parking apps just yet, but the Netherlands definitely does. But it basically says you can't park anywhere here in the Netherlands, and I don't know if it's in other countries too, without having a smartphone, a parking app account, and a working internet connection. And there's no sign that says people without smartphones can't park here. But the system itself still makes that direct distinction. So the same thing happens with two-factor authentication these days. It's there for security, and the goal, it makes sense. It's saved a lot of things. It's not that we're against it. But it also assumes that you have a smartphone, and that the smartphone is with you, and that when something goes wrong and you need that access, you have it on the ready. And the thing is, if you can't meet those expectations, then you're locked out of your account. Or you can't even have an account in the first place. And this is not because someone assessed your situation and was like, oh no, Bianca's not fit for her account. It's just because if you don't meet that or you don't have a smartphone or anything, you just can't follow the system here, even if the system has nothing to do with phones whatsoever. And this is where error messages become important. Action not permitted. Something went wrong. Try again later. Those messages, they don't explain what broke or what rule that you're not allowed to do has been hit. They also don't tell you who decided that rule or what counts as a reasonable exception. They're just the touch point where you run into a decision that's already been made by the system, unknown to you. And because there's no explanation, there's like nothing to respond to. And you don't argue, you don't appeal. You either adapt or you just stop there. There's not much you can do. So, an idea that I find quite fascinating. I don't know if it exists in some cars today. I tried to Google this, and it does say that it does in some cars, but I'm not convinced by those. But it effectively is to have breathalyzers inside ignitions of cars. Well, not inside, but effectively, you can't start the engine of the car if your alcohol level is above a certain threshold. So, in order to start your car, you have to blow into the breathalyzer, basically stopping drinking and driving. And the decision around whether you're allowed to drive or not at this point in time is made automatically. Every single time you would theoretically turn the key of the car. So this episode, we fully agree with each other. But at that moment in time, let's say, there's no police officer there to explain your situation. Maybe you ate way too many poppy seed muffins and the breathalyzer says something, or maybe the breathalyzer is malfunctioning and your wife is giving birth and you really need to go. What do you do in that situation? There's no discretion in the moment. There's no way to explain your situation. It's just either this or that. And these systems, they don't care why you need to drive or where you need to go. Obviously, we are not endorsing any drink driving, but it's the thought experiment that matters. And these conditions or these decisions are built physically into this car now. And if you meet these conditions, the car will start. But if you don't, sorry for you, buddy, you can't drive. Which, most would argue, it's good. You shouldn't be drinking driving. So none of this means design is bad, or that these systems shouldn't exist. It just shows something important. Some decisions that we would usually associate with rules or laws, or a bigger authority in general, are now handled through design. And once you see that, you start to pay attention in a different way. Not to just what systems do, but what they actually require. Because those requirements shape what's possible long before anyone argues about it. So, thanks for coming along to this one. I find this topic fascinating. It changed my entire perspective on how I look at these certain things. Because it's not to say that I also, as a designer or someone that built a lot of technological things or consumer products, I was also enforcing certain laws, whether it was intended or not. But I think what freaks me out the most is that a lot of these things are intended and we don't even think about it. Just think about how many things you can't do these days without a smartphone. How many QR codes? My parents used to get super frustrated where they were like, oh, I'm going to a restaurant and now I need a phone to scan this QR code. When you start noticing it, you can't stop. Anyway, I'll check you guys tomorrow.